Wiregrass Construction Company strives to create a culture of safety in everything we do. To accomplish this, we have established the policies in this manual. This presentation is for general safety information at Wiregrass Construction Company, giving all of our team members a reference to items we feel are important to everyone. By no means is this an all-encompassing list of every safety practice, but it is a compilation of topics that we encounter regularly in the construction business. For specific instructions or more detailed information, please refer to your manual. Every employee has a duty to one another to be on the lookout for unsafe work habits, conditions or equipment. Failure to address an apparent unsafe condition could lead to injury to one or more members of the team. If you see a better or safer way to do a task, it is incumbent on you to pass this suggestion on to your supervisor. Safety must be achieved at a personal level. It is a condition of your employment that you work safely. We made you a member of our team because we value your contribution to our company. We need every team member healthy and operating at 100% to compete and succeed in our industry. Beyond that, we want all of our workers to return home to their families every day in the same condition as when they left in the morning. Wiregrass Construction Company has a zero accidents philosophy and is committed to ensuring safe and efficient work execution, protection of our environment, as well as the safety and welfare of our employees, the public and the communities we work in. Each employee should understand the following. No employee is expected to undertake a job until he or she has received instruction on how to do it properly and safely, and is authorized to perform the job. No employee should undertake a job that appears to be unsafe. No employee should use chemicals without fully understanding their toxic properties and without the knowledge required to work with them safely. Mechanical safeguards must always be put in place and be kept in place. Personal protective equipment must be used when and where required, and be properly maintained. Employees are to report to a superior or designated individual all unsafe conditions encountered during work. Any work-related incidents, injuries or illnesses, however slight, must be reported to an immediate supervisor at once. Keep your mind on your work at all times. Horseplay is not permitted on the job. The result may be injury, termination or both. Do not distract fellow workers. Do not engage in any act that endangers another employee. Avoid leaving an unattended machine running unless it is fully guarded and intended to operate continuously in a safe mode. Riding on any material handling equipment not equipped with a seat and seatbelt for each rider is prohibited and is grounds for disciplinary action. When working around equipment, make sure the operator is aware of your position. Do not enter any barricaded area unless you are authorized to do so. Help keep the job site clean and orderly. Use the right tools and equipment for the job. Lift correctly with your legs, not your back. Get help if the load is too heavy. A job safety analysis is the systematic identification of potential hazards in the workplace that can be used to identify, analyze, and record. First, the steps involved in performing a specific job. Next, the existing or potential safety and health hazards associated with each step. Lastly, the recommended actions and procedures that will eliminate or reduce these hazards and the risk of a workplace injury or illness. Cell phone usage as well as listening to music, recorded sound or the radio while operating off-road equipment, operating licensed vehicles for construction purposes on job sites or working on a job site is prohibited. Safety policies and work rules are developed for everyone's protection. Knowing these policies and rules is a condition of employment, as is compliance with them. Failure to do so may result as disciplinary action, up to and including termination. Stop work policy. As a Wiregrass Construction Company representative, you have the responsibility and authority, without the fear of reprimand or retaliation, to immediately stop, question and help rectify any work activity that presents an unaddressed hazard to you, your coworkers, our clients, the public or the environment. If you do not feel the unaddressed hazard is resolved adequately, you have the responsibility to raise it to a higher level. Minor first aid treatment. Each employee needs to inform his or her supervisor of any incident. For minor injuries, participate in treatment with first aid supplies. If a first aid kit is used, each use should be indicated on the incident investigation report. Understand that access to a first aid kit is not intended to be a substitute for medical attention. Only those employees who are currently certified in basic first aid from a nationally recognized provider shall administer first aid. First aid kits. Every supervisor will be assigned a first aid kit that must be readily available at the worksite. The supervisor will be responsible for ensuring that supplies are within date and readily available. Driver responsibilities. Each driver is responsible for the actual possession, care and use of any company vehicle in his or her possession. Therefore, a driver's responsibilities include, but are not limited to, the following. Operation of the vehicle in a manner consistent with reasonable practices that avoids abuse, theft, neglect or disrespect of the equipment. Obedience of all traffic laws. The use of seat belts and shoulder harnesses is mandatory for drivers and passengers. Adhering to the manufacturer's recommendations regarding service, maintenance and inspection. Vehicles shall not be operated with any defects that would prevent safe operation. Attention to and practice of safe driving techniques and adherence to current safety requirements. Whenever conditions permit, a vehicle should be backed into a parking space. Many accidents occur when backing out of a parking space. Restricting the use of vehicles to authorized drivers only. Reporting the occurrence of moving violations. Accurate, comprehensive and timely reporting of all accidents by an authorized driver. Reporting theft of any company vehicle to law enforcement and your supervisor immediately. Refer to the Human Resources Policy for driving requirements. Maintain a proper level of housekeeping in and out of all vehicles. Heat stress prevention and control. Whenever it is determined that a heat stress environment exists, heat stress preventative measures shall be implemented. Refer to heat application on your smartphone or tablet for current conditions, precautions, and for first aid and instructions. When unacceptable levels of heat stress can potentially occur, there are generally 5 approaches to a solution. Modify the environment. Modify clothing or equipment. Modify the work practices. Modify the worker through heat acclimation. Modify production with a work-rest regimen. Housekeeping. Recommended practice, 20. 20. 20. Every 20 minutes, take a 20-second scan of a 20-foot work perimeter. The work crew shall clean and organize the site and work areas regularly, not just at the end of a shift. The housekeeping program shall identify and assign responsibilities for the following. Cleanup during a shift. Day-to-day cleanup. Waste disposal. Removal of unused materials. Inspection to ensure cleanup is complete. Poor floor conditions are a leading cause of accidents. Clean up spilled oil and other liquids immediately. Work areas, passageways, stairways and other areas shall be kept free of debris and any unused materials. Aisles and stairways. Areas within 3 feet of the bottom and top of all ladders, stairways and other access points are to be free of any materials, equipment, cords and hoses. There shall be unobstructed access at all times to such areas as electrical panels, safety disconnect switches, fire extinguishers, emergency exits, etc. Tools and equipment. The orderly arrangement of operations, tools, equipment and supplies is an important part of a good housekeeping program. Whether in a tool room, on the rack, in the yard or on the bench, tool housekeeping must be maintained. The site shall mark locations to provide the arrangement of tools, both in the tool room and near the workbench to provide them with suitable fixtures. Return tools promptly after use to reduce the chance of misplacing or losing any items. Workers shall regularly inspect, clean and repair all tools. Damaged tools shall be tagged and taken out of service immediately. Special care shall be taken in the placement of hoses, cords, welding leads and electrical and other cables. They shall be placed in a manner that will reduce the chances of being damaged by personnel, activities or equipment and to eliminate potential tripping hazards to personnel. Acceptable methods for preventing damage or eliminating tripping hazards include routing away from frequently traveled areas, burying in a trench and covering when placed in frequently traveled areas, placing in an elevated position. Storage. Ineffective or insufficient storage planning results in materials being handled and stored in hazardous ways. Ensure work areas are not used as storage areas by having workers move materials from work areas, as needed. Investing in extra bins and more frequent disposal may be required. The organization of stored material is essential for overcoming material storage problems whether on a temporary or permanent basis. Fewer strain injuries may result if the amount of handling is reduced, especially if less manual material handling is required. The location of the material shall not interfere with work, but materials should still be readily available when required. Stack cartons and drums on a firm foundation and cross-tie them where necessary to reduce the chance of movement. Stored materials shall not obstruct aisles, stairs, exits, fire equipment, emergency eyewash fountains, emergency showers, or first aid stations. All storage areas should be clearly marked. Flammable, combustible, toxic, and other hazardous materials shall be stored in approved containers in designated areas that are appropriate for the particular hazards they pose. Lay-down areas and yards shall be kept clean and organized. Materials shall be neatly stacked or placed. The materials shall be stacked in a secured manner to prevent toppling or spillage. Risk of impalement. Impalement hazards include, but are not limited to, instrument tubing, electrical conduit, instrumentation, electrical channels, and rebar. Workers shall be protected from vertical and horizontal impalement hazards through one or a combination of the following means. Installation of hard barricades with appropriate signage in areas with recognized impalement hazards, forbidding workers to enter until the work area is determined by the site HSE personnel to be free of recognized impalement hazards. Bending the ends of the protruding impalement hazards. Installation of suitably sturdy wood covers, such as those made of 2x4s, over the impalement hazard. Rebar caps. Mushroom-style rebar caps provide limited impalement protection and shall only be used as abrasion or scratch protection and where there is no possibility of an impalement hazard. In some circumstances, the force of a fall can cause rebar to push through a mushroom-style cap and impale a worker, or the worker can be impaled by the rebar and the mushroom-style cap together. Do not use the mushroom caps shown. Only rebar caps designed to provide impalement protection, such as those containing steel reinforcement, shall be used. Note: this does not eliminate the need to protect the ends of recognized vertical or horizontal impalement hazards. Shop spill control. The best way to control spills is to stop them before they happen. Regularly clean and maintain machines and equipment in accordance with manufacturer requirements. Use drip pans, secondary containment, and guards where possible spills or leaks may occur. Promptly fix equipment or machines that develop a leak. Should spills or leaks occur, clean them up immediately and report the incident. Absorbent materials are useful for wiping up greasy, oily, or other liquid spills. However, used absorbents must be disposed of in closed containers segregated from others, properly labeled, and removed from the common trash areas. Compressed air above 30 psi shall not be used for removing dust, dirt, or chips from equipment work surfaces. If compressed air is utilized, the proper PPE shall be worn. Container labeling. Supervisors will be responsible for all containers of hazardous chemicals entering the workplace and will assure the chemical containers are properly labeled with the following: chemical name, hazard warning, name and address of the manufacturer, importer, or responsible party. The facility where chemicals are purchased is responsible for obtaining the SDS. Current master inventory list of all SDS. The identity used on the SDS shall be the same as used on the container label. The chemical and common name of all ingredients determined to present a hazard shall appear on all SDS. The physical and chemical characteristics of the substance, including vapor pressure, flash point, etc. The fire, explosion, and reactivity hazards of the chemical mixture, including the boiling point, flash point, and auto ignition temperature. Health hazards of the chemical mixture, including signs and symptoms of exposure, medical conditions recognized as aggravated by exposure with primary routes of entry, permissible exposure limit (E) or any other exposure limit used or recommended by the manufacturer, importer, or employer. Whether or not a substance has a carcinogen listing, NTP, or has been found to be a potential carcinogen, IARC, by OSHA. Control measures including fire, engineering, and personal protective equipment. General precautions for safe handling and use, including protective measures during repair and maintenance procedures for cleanup of spills and leaks. Emergency and first aid procedures. Date prepared or changed. name, address and telephone numbers of the manufacturer, importer or responsible party to call in an emergency. Before starting work, the supervisor of a new employee will go over their copy of the Hazard Communication Program, HCP, and each SDS applicable to the job via the WCC QR code to the e-binder. The minimum orientation and training for a new employee is as follows. An overview of the requirements contained in the Hazard Communication Standard, 29 CFR 1910.1200. Chemicals present in his or her workplace. Location and availability of the written HCP. Physical and health effects of the hazardous chemicals in the workplace. Methods and observation techniques used to determine the presence or release of hazardous chemicals in the work area. How to lessen or prevent exposure to these hazardous chemicals through proper control or work practices and PPE. Steps taken by the applicable division to lessen or prevent exposure to the chemicals listed on the inventory list. Emergency procedures to follow if exposed to any chemicals. Location of SDS file and hazardous inventory list, SDS index, or QR code. Before any non-routine task is performed, employees shall be advised and/or they must contact the supervisor for special precautions to follow. The supervisor shall inform any other personnel who could be exposed. Personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is not to be relied upon as the only means for providing protection against hazards, but is to be used in conjunction with guards, engineering controls and sound construction practices. If possible, hazards will be abated first through engineering controls, with PPE to provide protection against hazards which cannot otherwise be reasonably abated. The supervisor will provide training for each employee who is required to use PPE. Training will include the following. When PPE is necessary. What PPE is necessary. How to wear the assigned PPE. Limitations of PPE. The proper care, maintenance, useful life and disposal of assigned PPE. Employees shall not perform work without donning appropriate PPE to protect them from the hazards they may encounter in the course of work. Shirts with minimum 4 inches sleeves and long pants are required. No tank tops, sweatpants or shorts are allowed. Loose-fitting clothes and jewelry shall not be worn around rotating machinery or operations. Hair will be maintained beneath hard hat or protected in a manner to avoid being caught in any equipment or operation. Hard hats. All employees working at or visiting a project must wear a hard hat at all times when required by owner, client, general contractor or company. Hard hats will also be worn in work environments where there are impact hazards from falling or flying objects, milling operations, whenever working in or around the swing radius of an excavator or any overhead load or hazards of electrical shock. Company-furnished hard hats shall be taken care of and properly worn without modifications, for instance painted, holes drilled in them, placement of excessive stickers, etc., and returned at the end of your employment. Supervisors and managers are responsible for ensuring that their employees are in compliance with this policy. Failure to do so can result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Eye and face protection. Eye protection will be worn when required by the owner, client or general contractor and within any area where work is being performed that may result in flying debris, milling operations, dust, etc. Furthermore, additional welding hoods, chemical goggles, face shields, etc. shall be required. Hearing protection. Gloves. Protective footwear. Life jackets. Reflective vest. Personal fall protection equipment. Use all fall protection equipment for its intended purpose only. Using a lanyard or any other fall protection device for rope or any other application other than for its intended use is strictly prohibited. Do not wrap a lanyard around an object and then clip it back to itself, for instance choking the lanyard, unless it is designed to be used in this application by the manufacturer. Otherwise, manufacturer recommendations strictly prohibit this practice. If there is nothing to clip your lanyard off to, advise your supervisor and you will be issued a tie-off strap or crossarm strap that will assist in developing an approved tie-off connection point. Clipping two lanyards together, hook to hook, is prohibited. The hooks were not designed for this use and using the lanyards in this manner is forbidden. Inspection. Employees are required to check all fall protection equipment provided to them prior to each use. Items to be checked include: full body harness is free of visible defects. Examples of defects include significant burns to the webbing material, cracks, burns or bends in any of the metal components. Painted metal components, bent buckles or tongue rivets on the belt and or leg straps. Harness has manufacturer identification label attached and it is legible. Lanyard double locking snap hooks are operating properly and freely. Shock absorbing components have no burns, cuts or excessive fraying. Anchorage points are capable of supporting 5,000 pounds. If your personal fall protection harness and or equipment has any of these defects, or if it does not properly fit you, discontinue the use of it immediately and notify your supervisor or safety representative. The necessary corrective actions will be taken. Care. Store equipment separately, in a cool and dry place, not subjected to direct sunlight and away from tools and sharp objects to prevent other damage. Harnesses should be kept off the floors and away from exposures to chemicals that degrade synthetics. Ideally, body harnesses and lanyards should be stored on a hook or hanger. Repair and replacement. When a harness or other fall protection item becomes worn or damaged, or is suspected to be damaged, and or has been involved in arresting a fall, it shall be taken out of service and immediately returned to the employee's supervisor for replacement. Cleaning and maintenance. Cleaning is particularly important for the eye and face, respiratory and hearing protection equipment, as improper cleaning can impair the effectiveness of these devices. Hearing conservation. This hearing conservation program requires that all employees exposed to noise at or above an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels shall participate. Good protection depends on a good seal between the surface of the skin and the surface of the ear protection. A very small leak can destroy the effectiveness of the protection. Hearing protection has a tendency to work loose as a result of talking, chewing, etc. And it must be reseated from time to time during the workday. A good seal often cannot be obtained without some initial discomfort. There will be no adverse reactions as a result of the use of hearing protection if it is kept reasonably clean. Personal hearing protection will be furnished to employees at no cost. If hearing protection is damaged in any way, contact the safety director for a replacement. The employee is responsible for all PPE issued. Lost or stolen PPE must be replaced by the employee. Proper manual lifting techniques. Never attempt to lift an object that is too heavy for you. Ask for help or use the equipment provided. In the plant or maintenance shop areas, use approved hand trucks, dollies and other equipment to move heavy and or awkward loads. Never try to lift an item or box you cannot comfortably lift. Get help lifting clumsy loads or those too heavy to lift safely. Make sure you can see over any materials you are carrying. Make sure your path is clear of any obstacles. Do not walk on wet or slippery surfaces. Clean up spills immediately. All employees should know the proper way to manually lift objects. The potential for back injury is high when manually lifting. No employee should attempt to lift a load that is too heavy. Ask a coworker for assistance or use a device such as a hand truck. Proper lifting steps. There is a widely recognized correct way to lift. Use the legs when lifting objects, not the back muscles. Keep your back straight. Without the proper technique, a seemingly simple lift may result in injury such as pulled muscles, hernias, or painful back problems or injury. Always follow these 7 basic steps when lifting. Spread your feet. Place one foot alongside the object to be lifted and the other behind it. Spreading your feet gives you greater stability. Now, your rear foot is in position for the upward push needed for the lift. Keep your back straight. Bend at the hips and knees. Squat into a sit-down position, keeping your back as straight as possible. Straight means your spine, back muscles and body are in proper alignment for lifting safely. Keep your shoulders back. Hold your shoulders back and your stomach in to keep your spine in line and firm. This will help relieve pressure on the lower back. Be sure you can lift the load. Extend your fingers and hands around the object to be lifted. Use your full palm. Your fingers have very little power on their own, so use the strength of your entire hand for the lift. Tip the load on its side to test its weight and determine if you can carry it comfortably. Tuck in your arms and elbows. Draw the load in close and tuck your arms and elbows close to the side of your body. Your arms lose much of their strength by holding them away from the body. Holding the load close to the body is the key to safe lifting. Center your body weight. Position your body so that your weight is centered between your feet. This will ensure better balance and a stable lift. Begin your lift with a push off your rear foot. Turn your forward foot outward. Point your forward foot in the direction you plan to go. Turn your whole body to avoid twisting during your lift. Twisting is one of the most common causes of back stress. Putting down the load. Keep your back straight. Avoid twisting your body. Squat down, bending at the knees. Set down the load and carefully release it. Additional lifting tips and review. Use hand protection, gloves, if necessary. Check the load for rough strapping, sharp edges, splinters and exposed nails. Move your feet to turn your whole body. Do not twist your upper body at the waist. Ask for assistance or use mechanical assistance if the load weight is beyond your capabilities. Fall protection. This program applies to all construction workers who may work in areas where a threshold height of 4 feet, general industry, or 6 feet, construction, or greater exists, except when designated employees are inspecting, investigating or assessing workplace conditions before the actual start of construction work or after all construction work has been completed. The program scope will include provisions for identifying potential and existing fall hazards, identifying tasks that expose employees to falls from heights, employee training on identification, solutions and controls for fall exposures, employee training on the application and use of personal fall arrest systems, understanding what is expected of each employee, training in record keeping. It is the policy of Wiregrass Construction Company that all employees working in construction environments will be protected from falls of 4 feet, general industry, or 6 feet, construction, or greater in height, have the knowledge to identify fall exposures, hazards and understand applicable controls. All projects will have a hazard assessment completed. No work will be performed until fall risks are controlled. If the situation calls for the use of personal fall arrest systems, then the employee must don such protective equipment before beginning the work and use it as intended throughout the duration of the work. Only employees trained in such work are expected to perform it. All places of employment and job sites shall be kept clean and orderly, and in sanitary condition. Fall protection controls. Guardrail systems. Guardrail systems used by Wiregrass Construction Company will meet the following criteria. Top rails and mid rails of guardrail systems must be at least 1/4 inch in nominal diameter. When wire rope is used for top rails, it will be flagged at no more than 6-foot intervals with high visibility materials. Steel and plastic banding will not be used as top rails or mid rails. Top rails will be between 39 and 45 inches high and able to withstand 200 pounds of pressure in any direction. For mid rails above 21 inches high with intermediate openings no greater than 19 inches with mid rails having a minimum 150 pounds resistance capacity. Toe boards must be erected along the edges of the overhead working surface for a distance sufficient to protect persons working below. Toe boards shall be capable of withstanding a force of at least 50 pounds applied in any direction at any point along the toe board. Toe boards shall be a minimum of 3.5 inches tall from their top edge to the level of the working surface, having no more than 1/4 of an inch clearance above the working surface and be solid or have an opening no larger than 1 inch in size. Where tools, equipment or materials are piled higher than the top edge of a toe board, paneling or screening must be erected from the working surface or toe board to the top of a guardrail system's top rail or mid rail, for a distance sufficient to protect employees below. If guardrails must be removed to receive materials, alternative fall protections such as personal fall arrest systems will be established. Hole covers. Hole covers subject to vehicle or equipment traffic must be able to support at least twice the maximum axle load of the largest vehicle to which the cover might be subjected. All other covers must be able to support at least twice the weight of employees, equipment and materials that may be imposed on the cover at any time. To prevent accidental displacement resulting from wind, equipment or coworkers' activities, all covered must be secured. All covers shall be color-coded or bear the markings, hole, or cover. Personal fall arrest systems. Where fall risks have been identified and a personal fall arrest system is determined to be necessary, the following criteria will be met. All personal fall arrest system use must be reviewed and approved by a competent person. Equipment. Body belts are not permitted. Only full body harnesses will be used. All components used in a fall arrest system shall be compatible with one another. All components will be inspected prior to each use for wear, damage or deterioration. Personal fall arrest systems subjected to impact loading shall be taken out of service immediately and not used again until recertified for use by the manufacturer. Snap hooks may not be connected as follows unless they are the locking type and are designed for this type of installation. Directly to webbing, rope or wire. To each other. To a D-ring to which another snap hook or other connector is attached. To any object that is incompatibly shaped or dimensioned in relation to the snap hook such that unintentional disengagement could occur by the connected object being able to depress the snap hook keeper and release itself. Anchor points. Personal fall arrest systems shall be attached to anchorage points approved by the site's competent person. The anchor point must be capable of supporting a minimum tensile strength of 5,000 pounds per employee connected. Anyone working at a height must be within verbal range of another person who could raise an alarm should a fall occur. Ladders. Ladders purchased shall be vendor certified as ANSI Type IA. 2 or more people shall not work from the same ladder unless it is specifically designed for 2 people. Special pre-task planning should be conducted before employees use a 2-person stepladder. A 1/2 inch rope shall be spliced to the top, back rung of stepladders or to the third rung from the top of straight and extension ladders to provide a means for ladder tie-off. All portable ladders shall be erected at a 4:1 ratio. For every 4 feet of extension, the base shall be 1 foot out. Ladder specifications. Ladders shall be constructed of wood or fiberglass. Straight ladders shall not be longer than 20 feet, extension ladders shall not be longer than 36 feet. All straight and extension ladders shall have non-slip feet. Stepladders and platform ladders shall not be longer than 12 feet as determined by the front rail. Ladders may not be painted, except for the platform and top step, which shall be painted to warn users not to step thereon. The side rail may be painted in order to comply with quarterly inspection requirements. All portable ladders shall be equipped with non-skid safety feet and placed on a stable base. The access areas at the top and bottom of ladders in use shall be kept clear of obstructions. Safe use of ladders. Ladders shall be placed with secure footing, or they shall be lashed or held in position. The side rails of all ladders shall extend 36 inches above the landing. When this is not practical, grab rails shall be installed. All ladders in use shall be tied, blocked or otherwise secured to prevent displacement. The foot of a ladder shall, where possible, be used at such a pitch that the horizontal distance from the top support to the foot of the ladder is 1/4 of the working length of the ladder. The length along the ladder between the foot and the support. Employees shall always face the ladder when climbing up or down, and shall maintain 3 points of contact. Short ladders shall not be spliced together to make longer ladders. Ladders shall never be used in the horizontal position as scaffolds or work platforms. The top of a regular stepladder shall not be used as a step. Both hands shall be used when climbing and descending ladders. Carrying tools while climbing or descending ladders is prohibited. To help reduce the possibility, a rope should be secured near any ladder to serve as access to overhead work areas. Inspecting ladders. Personnel who use ladders are responsible and expected to inspect ladders before use. Bends, dents, cracks, loose or missing rivets, disconnected braces and corrosion can seriously weaken a ladder. The area around rivet points on fiberglass ladders shall be carefully inspected for hairline stress cracks. Any defective ladders shall be destroyed or removed from use immediately. Ladders with broken or missing rungs, broken or split side rails or that are damaged in other ways shall be removed from service. Storing and transporting ladders. When not in use, ladders shall be stored on racks in locations protected from the elements, with good ventilation, away from excessive heat. Materials are not to be stored on ladders. Ladders being transported by motor vehicles shall be properly supported. Supporting points shall be made of material such as wood or rubber-covered iron pipe to minimize chafing and the effects of vibration and movement during transport. Ladders over 12 feet long should be carried by 2 employees. Job-made ladders are not allowed on Wiregrass Construction Company sites or projects. Fire protection. The Wiregrass Construction Company fire protection program consists of the following: provisions for separate storage for flammable materials. Provisions for storage or dispensing flammable liquids to meet regulatory requirements. Employee training in the proper use of fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers provided and available with current certifications. Clear access provided for firefighting equipment to all areas of the project. Appropriate firefighting equipment shall be immediately available in the work area and shall be maintained in a state of readiness. Fire extinguishers shall be conspicuously marked and clear access to each shall be maintained. Fire extinguishers shall be inspected, tested and maintained in accordance with National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, standards. Fire extinguishers shall be inspected monthly and annually by an outside agency. Each fire extinguisher shall be replaced immediately after discharge with another fire extinguisher that is fully charged and of the proper size and type. Smoking shall be prohibited at or near operations which constitute a fire hazard. Only approved containers and portable tanks shall be used for the storage and handling of flammable and combustible liquids. ULFM approved metal safety cans shall be employed for the handling and use of flammable liquids. Flammable or combustible liquids shall not be stored in areas used for exits or stairways, or normally used for the safe passage of people. If normal fire prevention methods are not sufficient to adequately ensure the prevention of fires, additional personnel shall be added, fire watch, to guard against potential fires. Fire watches shall be trained and remain at the location a minimum of 30 minutes after work is stopped to ensure that no possibility of fire exists. All exits shall be illuminated and appropriately marked. Electrical safety. Employee protection and safe work practices. Only qualified employees shall be permitted to work on, near or with energized electric circuits. When the exact location of underground electric power lines is unknown, employees using jackhammers or hand tools, which may contact the line, shall wear insulated protective gloves. Electrical panels shall not be left open or unattended except while during active use. Personnel working on the panel shall not leave the area for any reason while the panel is unattended. All breakers shall be labeled. There shall be no exposed panel blanks. All electrical tools shall be in good working order, including protective insulation. Electrical cords shall be visually inspected prior to use. Damaged cords must be removed from service and tagged defective immediately. Electrically operated equipment shall be de-energized before repair or adjustments are performed. Warning signs shall be affixed to energized equipment designating it high or low voltage. Ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs shall be provided for all outdoor power receptacle outlets. Ergo, temporary wiring during construction. GFCIs shall be provided for all moist or wet areas where electrical equipment or tools may be used. GFCIs shall be inspected and checked periodically. GFCIs shall be utilized for all temporary power. Hauling material and equipment. The ability to transport equipment and materials safely and efficiently is a basic function of the road construction business. Conducting successful trucking operations comes with a great deal of responsibility for the well-being of our employees and the motoring public. It is also very important that we take care of our on-road heavy equipment so that it will perform well during its entire service life. Daily inspections. At the start of every workday, every operator of on-road truck or tractor equipment must perform an inspection to ensure that the vehicle is road-ready for the day's activities. At a minimum, the following systems should be checked to verify full working condition and levels: tire pressure, brakes, lights, proper placard, for those carrying hazardous materials, tanks, hoses, pumps, for leaking, applicable dot markings, fire extinguisher charge level, windshield, wipers, fluid levels. In addition, continuous housekeeping of the cab areas of trucks is an important health and safety issue. Trash and debris that is present could cause or contribute to an accident. Material moving, loading and unloading. All employees shall be fully alert and cautious when carrying out moving, loading, securing and unloading of equipment or other materials. Employees must know in advance the weight of material and the capacity of the handling device. Lowboys hauling heavy equipment shall not be overloaded, or loads overbalanced or hauled in a dangerous manner, such as blades hanging out too far or tracks too near the edge of the trailer. Lowboy trailers shall be positioned on level ground to minimize the risk of tipping the loaded equipment. For all material hauling, the driver shall check proper loading of the body before the truck leaves the loading point. Correction shall be made for the following causes. Overweight. This is to be governed by job conditions, haul roads and the condition of the truck, such as worn tires, a weak engine, framework, springs and a weak dumping mechanism. Trucks shall not be loaded in excess of the maximum state load limits. Overloading body. This includes improper distribution of materials, aggregate material piled in excess above body sides or ends, material protruding beyond body limits that might be dangerous to traffic, or an unbalanced load that could dump or fall off the truck in transit. Overloading cab. No equipment shall be operated with more than one person per seat or without operable seat belts. General safety rules. Do not back any vehicle with an obstructed view to the rear, unless a flagman or spotter is in a position to give backing instructions. All trucks shall be equipped with a backup alarm that is audible above the surrounding noise. At all times, be aware of equipment working close by, and the location of other employees while moving or loading and unloading. Make sure your load is properly secured with straps and binders. You shall never drive or move any loaded vehicle on the highway if the load is not properly secured. The load must not be able to drop, shift, leak or otherwise escape. If you notice any irregularity in the condition of the load or the tie-down equipment, stop the truck immediately and make the necessary adjustments. Discontinue driving until the problem is corrected, since load shifting or loss of cargo can present a serious safety hazard. Any driver caught with a load inadequately secured is in violation of company policy. Disciplinary action will be taken against any employee who fails to follow proper loading and binding procedures. When traveling, stop and check the load periodically and retighten the chains if needed. Proper procedures shall be used at all times. Hazardous materials should be loaded and stored in such a way that they will not be damaged by other freight or handling equipment. Use warning signs that describe your hazardous freight. Damaging of equipment and public utilities. Do not leave a dumping area before the truck body has been lowered and the tailgate closed. Do not drive under low-hanging utility wires or limbs except with extreme caution. You will be held liable for any expense necessary to repair such damage. Do not drive off with a load before you are sure that equipment for loading is not still attached to body. This includes the pump hose, fire plugs, conveyors, loaders, etc. Do not drive near obstacles on your off side without first determining whether there is clearance. When hauling loads that could fall or blow onto the roadway, use a close-fitting cover if provided. When a load extends to the rear 4 feet or more beyond the bed or body of the loaded vehicle, it must be clearly marked with a red flag. No worker shall be allowed to ride in the load-on vehicle. Where visibility is hindered prior to movement, operator shall perform a 360-degree walk around prior to engagement. Mobile equipment maintenance. Equipment maintenance presents a variety of dangers from stored and potentially hazardous energy. It is important to bring equipment to a zero mechanical state, in which there is no potential for accidental release of stored or potential energy and accidental startup is prevented. Tags are required on all sources of ignition. If working on wheeled equipment, wheel chocks should be installed to prevent the equipment from rolling. If maintenance or service work requires that attachments or other components be elevated, hardwood blocks, equipment jacks, safety stops or pivot point pins should be installed to prevent the elevated items from falling. Work zone safety. Warning. OSHA compliance officers are driving around looking for work zone activities and will stop to conduct an inspection if unsafe conditions are noticed. Work zone facts. During peak construction season, approximately 20% of our nation's highway system is under construction with more than 3,000 work zones. Approximately 12 billion vehicle miles of travel a year will be through work zones. Motorists can expect to encounter an active work zone 1 out of every 100 miles driven on the nation's highway system. More than 40,000 people are injured each year as a result of crashes in work zones. 1 work zone fatality every 8 hours, 3 per day. 1 work zone injury every 9 minutes, 160 per day. 29 CFR 1926.200, G. Traffic signs. Construction areas shall be posted with legible traffic signs at points of hazard. All traffic control signs or devices used for protection of construction workers shall conform to Part 6 of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, 29 CFR 1926.201, A. Flaggers. Signaling by flaggers and the use of flaggers, including warning garments worn by flaggers, shall conform to Part 6 of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD. Work Zone Safety Standards. The MUTCD defines the standards used by road managers nationwide to install and maintain traffic control devices on streets and highways. The MUTCD is published by the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, incorporated by the Department of Transportation, DOT, and referenced by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. These are 5 basic considerations for traffic control devices. Fulfill a specific need. Command attention. Convey a clear and simple meaning. Command respect of the road user. Give adequate time for proper response. by following the specifications in the MUTCD, a road user will have all the opportunity to be warned of and take necessary action to avoid collision in a work zone. The MUTCD assumes that road users exercise caution while driving through a work zone. Even though road users are assumed to be using caution, special care is still needed in applying temporary traffic control techniques. Follow these fundamental principles for work zone safety. Road use and worker safety and accessibility should be an integral and high-priority element of every project from planning through design and construction. Road user movement should be inhibited as little as practical. Motorists, bicyclists and pedestrians should be guided in a clear and positive manner. To provide acceptable levels of operations, routine day and night inspections of the work zone should be performed. Attention should be given to the maintenance of roadside safety during the life of the work zone. Good public relations should be maintained. Warning signs used in temporary traffic control work zones have a black legend and border, as well as an orange background. Work zone safety considerations. The following are the key elements of worker safety and temporary traffic control management that should be considered to improve worker safety. Training. All workers should be trained on how to work next to motor vehicle traffic in a way that minimizes their vulnerability. Workers having specific responsibilities should be trained in the proper techniques, device usage and placement. Worker safety apparel. All workers exposed to the risks of moving roadway traffic or construction equipment should wear high-visibility safety apparel meeting the requirements of the ISEA, American National Standard for High-Visibility Safety Apparel, and labeled as a NSI 107 standard performance for Class 1, 2 or 3 risk exposures. A competent person designated by the employer to be responsible for the worker safety plan within the activity area of the job site should make the selection of the appropriate class of garment. Temporary traffic barriers. Temporary traffic barriers should be placed along the workspace depending on factors such as lateral clearance of workers from adjacent traffic, speed of traffic, duration and type of operations, time of day and volume of traffic. Speed reduction. Reducing the speed of vehicular traffic, mainly through regulatory speed zoning, funneling, lane reduction or areas using uniformed law enforcement officers or flaggers should be considered. Activity area planning. The internal work activity area to minimize backing up maneuvers of construction vehicles should be considered to minimize the exposure to risk. Worker safety planning. A competent person designated by the employer should conduct a basic hazard assessment for the worksite and job classifications required in the activity area. This safety professional should determine whether engineering, administrative or personal protection measures should be implemented. High visibility safety apparel. Employees exposed to public vehicular traffic must be provided with, and must wear, warning vests or other suitable garments marked with or made of reflective or high visibility material. Temporary traffic control work zone. External traffic. Temporary traffic control work zone components follow the requirements of the MUTCD. The advanced warning area is the section where road users are informed about the upcoming work zone or incident area. The advanced warning area may vary from a single sign or a high-intensity rotation, flashing, oscillating or strobe lights on a vehicle to a series of signs in advance of the work zone activity area. The transition area is that section where road users are redirected out of their normal path. Transition areas usually involve strategic use of tapers. Tapers are created by using a series of channelizing devices and/or pavement markings to move traffic out of, or into the normal path. The activity area is the section where the work activity takes place. It is comprised of the workspace, the traffic space and the buffer space. The workspace is the portion of the highway closed to road users and set aside for workers, equipment and material. Workspaces are usually delineated for road users by channelizing devices, or, to exclude vehicles and pedestrians, by temporary barriers. Buffer spaces may be positioned either longitudinally or laterally, with respect to the direction of the road user flow. The termination area shall be used to return road users to the normal path. The termination area shall extend from the downstream end of the work area to the last temporary traffic control device such as end roadwork signs, if posted. Traffic control devices. Traffic control devices include all signs, signals, markings and other devices used to regulate, warn or guide road users. Only standardized devices and signs may be used to direct traffic through temporary work zones. Signs should be located far enough in advance of the work area to allow vehicles to move smoothly and efficiently around work areas. Must clearly inform motorists of approaching activity and guide drivers around or through the activity. All signs used at night must be retroreflective. Distance between signs is based on the suggested advance warning sign spacing established in MUTCD. Exact sign placement is based on roadway characteristics, such as curves, bushes and trees, billboards, driveways, etc. Warning signs in temporary traffic control zones must have a black legend and a black border on an orange background. Cones, drums and barricades. Cones, drums and barricades are commonly used to alter or channel the normal traffic flow. All channelizing devices must be made of lightweight materials and give way when struck by a vehicle. This is considered to meet the definition of crashworthy. Channelizing devices must not break apart or be capable of penetrating the passenger compartment of a vehicle. Traffic control devices. To ensure the quality of a traffic control device, follow these guidelines. Ballasts, sandbags, must be placed on top of all bases of channeling devices and signposts. Sign supports must not be located on sidewalks, bicycle lanes or areas designated for pedestrian or bicycle traffic. Do not modify, distort or change the design or function of any traffic control device. Devices that are damaged or have lost a significant amount of their retroreflectivity and effectiveness must be replaced. Flagger qualifications. Because flaggers are responsible for public safety and make the greatest number of contacts with the public of all highway workers, they should be trained in safe traffic control practices and public contact techniques. Flaggers should be able to satisfactorily demonstrate the following abilities. Ability to receive and communicate specific instructions clearly, firmly and courteously. Ability to move and maneuver quickly in order to avoid danger from errant vehicles. Ability to control signaling devices, such as paddles and flags, in order to provide clear and positive guidance to drivers approaching a temporary traffic control zone in frequently changing situations. Ability to understand and apply safe traffic control practices, sometimes in stressful or emergency situations. Ability to recognize dangerous traffic situations and warn workers in sufficient time to avoid injury. Flagging operations. The stop or slow paddle should be the primary and preferred hand signaling device because the stop or slow paddle gives road users more positive guidance than red flags. The use of flags should be limited to emergency situations. Internal Traffic Control Plan. The purpose of an Internal Traffic Control Plan, ITCP, is to develop strategies to control the flow of construction workers, vehicles and equipment inside the work zone. Operators should get out of their vehicles and walk to the rear to look for people, objects and/or confirm clearances. Warn nearby workers who might be in the way. Nearby, on-foot workers must pay close attention to the equipment and watch it come to a complete stop. Safety notes. Different aspects of the ITCP may be identified and developed during the various construction phases of a project. However, the general principles for a milling and/or paving ITCP are established in this document. Pedestrian workers. Avoid walking or standing in the travelway of any vehicle or equipment. Stop the operation if you observe any pedestrian in the travelway of any vehicle or equipment. Do not be in front of the paver unless another worker is acting as a spotter. Crossing between the front of the paver and a backing dump truck is prohibited. Minimize time spent on foot working adjacent to live traffic whenever possible. Take breaks as far away from live traffic and moving equipment as possible. Walk in a way that deliberately maximizes distance from both live traffic and moving equipment. Do not use a cell phone or other electronic device when crossing traffic routes or engaged in safety-sensitive work. Dump trucks, vehicles and equipment. Establish and maintain eye contact with on-foot personnel while you are reversing. Stop reversing if you do not have eye contact. All dump trucks must be equipped with working backup alarms. Shifting into neutral or any action that deactivates the backup alarm during backing should be limited to only when absolutely necessary. Stop operation if you observe any pedestrian in the travelway of any vehicle or equipment. Dump truck drivers should stay in their truck, alert and ready to respond to instructions. Access the work zone by coming up from behind the operation in an adjacent lane and turning in between the cones at the appropriate point. When entering the work zone, ensure that your path is clear of workers and equipment. When exiting the work zone, use extreme care to ensure the vehicle can be safely merged. Wear all required PPE when exiting a vehicle for any reason. Dismount equipment on the side away from live traffic whenever possible. Do not approach a pedestrian employee without first establishing eye contact. The lead roller should not approach the paver closer than is necessary. Do not use cell phones while operating vehicles or equipment. Trucks and equipment must be reduced to a safe operating speed while in work zones. Motor vehicle safety. The majority of fatalities that occur in road construction work zones in the United States involve a worker being struck by a piece of construction equipment or other vehicle. A worker in this industry is just as likely to be struck by a piece of construction equipment inside the work zone as by passing traffic. Always follow these safety guidelines. All equipment left unattended at night must have appropriate lights or reflectors, or barricades equipped with appropriate lights or reflectors, to identify the location of the equipment. All vehicles with cabs must have windshield wipers and operable defogging or defrosting devices. All vehicles must have headlights and brake lights in operable condition. All vehicles must have audible horns. All vehicles with obstructed rear views must be equipped with backup alarms, or the vehicle shall be backed up only when an observer signals that it is safe to do so. All cab glass must be safety glass, or equivalent, that introduces no visible distortion affecting the safe operation of any machine. Vehicles used to transport employees must have as many seats as there are people, and vehicle occupants must wear seatbelts. Operators of excavators and backhoes must wear their seatbelts when seated in the normal seating arrangement for tractor operation. Methods of dealing with hostile drivers. Walk away. Do not argue, be courteous but firm. Record a description of the car, driver and license plate. Notify your supervisor. Warn fellow workers.